Hi, fourth graders. We are going to be starting geometry here on Seesaw. It's very important that you pay close attention to these lessons because geometry is going to mostly happen on Seesaw for the time being. So we really want to give you the best education we can possible through this platform. Today is going to be a lot of words, and that's right. In math today, we're going to do a lot of words, a lot of vocabulary. So what you're going to see is I'm going to give you the definition. I'm going to show you what that looks like with a drawing, and then I will also show you with my body what it looks like. I'm going to look silly. You're just going to look at it. You might be giggling at home, but if you actually get up and do the motions with me, it's going to help it stick in your brain a lot better. So I would encourage you to stand up and do those same actions that I'm going to be doing here in a moment. All right, we have 9 vocabulary words to get through. After you watch this video, there will also be 2 different assignments. One that your teacher was sent home, it's paper, and you'll be cutting and gluing, and then the other one is on Seesaw. So they all have to do with the information I'm about to pass on to you now, so pay close attention. If you need to, you can pause, you can rewatch, but everything you need to know will be in this video right here. So let's get started. All right, the very first thing we're going to talk about is a line. A line is a straight figure with no start or end. That's right, lines go on forever and ever. I'm using my black marker now. I'm going to draw a line. It's straight. It has 2 arrows on the end. Okay, lines can go in many different directions, but it has to be straight and it has to have arrows on both ends. To do that with my body, I'm going to make, these are my little arrows. Can you see them? Okay, and I'm straight now. So this is me as a line. I could also look like this. I still have arrows on my hands. I could look like this. I could look like this, like this. As long as I'm straight and I have arrows on the end, that's a line. Okay, a line segment is a line, but instead of the arrows, it's going to have 2 endpoints. What that looks like, again, is something straight and then endpoints. So a dot there and a dot there. Again, this can go in any direction you want it to, as long as it has those endpoints. So to be a line, I was straight with my arrows. To be a line segment, I'm going to be straight with an endpoint here and an endpoint here. Okay, so here are my endpoints. Now I'm straight. I'm a line segment. Segments stop. All right, still a line segment. You can still see my endpoints. Here's my endpoint. I'm a dot. Here's my other endpoint. I'm a dot. Okay, line segments have endpoints. Array is probably one of my favorite ones to talk about because array is a line, so that means it's straight, and it has a start, but it does not have an end. So what that might look like is something like this. Here's my start, because it has an endpoint, and then it's going to have a straight path and then an arrow. All right, I'm going to get a little bit closer so you can see that a little bit better. Okay, again, it can go any direction you want it to. An endpoint, straight line, arrow. And the way I always help my students remember this is because I say Ray, the name of a man, only walks one way. Ray only walks one way. So Ray can go whichever way you want him to, but he's only going to go one way. And to do that with your body, I hope you're doing it with me, you have one endpoint and one arrow. All right? So endpoints here, here's my arrow, and you can go whichever direction you want to, as long as one of your hands, and you could switch to, maybe now my endpoint's my other hand and my arrow is my other hand. All right? Straight, I'm a ray. And the very last thing on this side, we still have lots more to go over, is a point. A point is an exact location represented by a dot. So we had dots here. Here's a point, here's a point, here's a point. There's 2 endpoints because of the end of the line segment. But typically you'll see a point, here's a line, because it goes on and on forever. Lines go on and on forever. And points are just a specific spot on that line. So here's this big point. I'm going to make it extra big so you can clearly see it. That's a point. It's represented by a dot. So to review, a line goes on forever and ever. It has no end. A line segment has endpoints, a start and a beginning. Ray only walks one way, so he has a point and an arrow, and a point is an exact location. You may think we're done. We're about halfway done, so let's keep traveling. We're actually going to travel this way in our classroom. And we're going to talk about angles now. So angles are where 2 lines meet. we have a right angle. And the right angle is kind of what we judge everything else based off of. A right angle, when you measure it, is exactly 90 degrees. And degrees are what you measure in geometry. So when I say right angle, it's exactly like an L. It's the corner of the L. That's what I always think of. So when I see a right angle, it's going to look like an L. And oftentimes it's represented by a little square. Okay, again, it could be lots of different directions, but it's going to look like that perfect L, that corner of the L. That is the right angle right there. If it's less than a right angle, if it's even 89, 88, 1 degree, it's going to be called acute because it's a cute little angle. It's tiny. All right? So what that's going to look like is something like this. Okay, so you see this would be a right angle, and then it got smaller. Oh yeah, I forgot my motions. So here's my right angle. Acute's gonna be smaller. We're gonna get smaller with our acute angle. Okay, and acute angles again can go any direction, but it's a cute little angle. It's a little angle. It's smaller than your right angle. All right, then moving on to your obtuse. If I go back to my right angle, here I am. Obtuse are larger than right angles. So here's 90 degrees. To be a right angle, you have to be exactly 90. They're always right, they're always 90. As soon as you hit 91, you're now obtuse. Okay, they're obnoxious, they're big, they're obtuse. So my obnoxious big angle looks like this. Okay, it may look like this. But if I had a right angle, it would come down like this. I do not. I have an obtuse angle. So it's bigger. So again, right angles are going to be that perfect L shape. Acute are a cute little angle. They're smaller. And obtuse, here's my right angle again, are going to be bigger. Okay? They're going to be bigger or wider than a right angle. All right, fourth graders, I know you're doing so well. I'm going to truck back over and then we'll review again at the end. Our last three we're going to talk about are probably my favorite ones. All right, I love geometry in general, but these are really great. These are the different kinds of lines you can have. So one type of lines are parallel lines. They go on and on forever and they never meet, kind of like the L's in the parallel. You could also think like railroad tracks. If the railroad tracks were to meet, then the train wouldn't get to travel correctly. But parallel lines, they never ever touch. They can go in lots of directions, but they go on and on forever. They will never ever touch. Those may look like this. And they're lines, so I want to make sure, since it's a line, I have my arrows. Okay? These two lines right here could go on forever and ever and ever, and they would never ever touch. You could have one really long one and one short one, because we know lines never stop. But they're going to go on forever and ever and ever and never touch, just like the L's in the word parallel. All right. Perpendicular lines, they touch. They make that 90-degree angle, so they make a right angle. That might look something like this. And I know this is right because here's my box. Okay, these are perpendicular lines. Again, it doesn't have just to go that one way. It could go any way as long as they make that right angle. Or maybe I have endpoints. Maybe I have line segments. Okay, so these are our perpendicular lines meet and they form a right angle. And last but not least, we have intersecting lines. Intersecting lines, literally, they just touch somewhere. Doesn't matter where they touch, they touch. So intersecting lines just touch. They don't have to form a right angle. They can touch anywhere. Boom. Okay, those are intersecting. Intersecting. Because perpendicular lines touch, they are also intersecting. But intersecting lines, they are not as picky as perpendicular. So we're going to review real quick. That's right. I'm going to roll you back across the classroom. Okay. Lines. They have arrows, they go on forever and ever and ever, and they never stop. The difference between a line and a line segment is line segments have those endpoints, so they stop. Lines never stop, line segments stop. Ray only walks one way, so he's going to have an arrow at one end and an endpoint at the other. A point is an exact location represented by that dot. And again, we had endpoints here because they're the end of the line segments, but if it's in the middle, it's just called a point. All right, traveling over this way. Whoa, let's come back to these types of lines. Parallel, like the words, the L's in the word parallel, they go on forever and ever and they never meet. Okay, line segments could also be parallel lines, but here I just drew lines. Okay, perpendicular, they meet, but they make that 90-degree angle. We can see that by the box. And intersecting, they just touch somewhere, so they're not as picky. Lastly, over to our angles. We have a right that makes that perfect 90 degrees, always 90 degrees, not a little bit more or a little bit less, it's always 90 degrees, and it can go lots of different ways. So that 90 degree, that perfect L. As soon as it gets one smaller, it's a cute little angle, acute. But if it's a little bit bigger, 91 degrees, it's obtuse, it's obnoxious. All right? So with your lessons today, fourth graders, if you need to rewatch this, I know it's not really fun to hear my voice over and over. I'm done hearing my voice today, but you can rewatch it. You can also go on the internet and look. A lot of this is just practice, 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 so it gets in our brains. Ask your teacher for help if you need it. I know you're going to do wonderful, and I hope you have a beautiful Wednesday.